you guys are sitting for the right speakers or not. What is the expectation of the audience? What are we going to talk about? AI, yes, AI. So good. So quickly, without further ado, let me start with introductions. I am Deepak. I lead AI and analytics at Nazara. I also lead a gaming studio based in Hyderabad. Uh, we are here to talk about AI, the game changer. Uh, this is almost like a sequel to my first session in the morning. So we will continue some part of where we left there. And we have an expert with us, Oz. Oz, can you do a quick introduction?
Hello, everybody can hear me? So I've been in AI and machine learning since 2017. So first, I had a machine learning consulting startup where we did a lot of predictive algorithms, bots for games and such. And then that was about 3 years. And then for about 3 years also, we built a marketing campaign automation platform with machine learning. So basically fully automated, predicting all the key metrics and managing the user acquisition marketing campaigns for mobile games. And that was acquired by Tap Nation, which is a French publisher, about 2 years ago. And last 1 year or so, I was part of Leonardo AI, head of Europe and MENA, and until it got acquired by Canva a couple of months ago. So I would say had a lot of experience in different use cases and areas of machine learning AI. More predictive part of the game and more, it's kind of similar to the previous talk, a lot about generative AI and art as well. So that's me.
Yeah, so I think what we'll try to do is to take up a few critical questions around AI and implementation, go a little deeper, a few layers down to understand how and where we can get started. So, as data is fundamental to AI. So, what is your sense in terms of to build the right infrastructure or architecture for data, for AI?
Yeah, so when we say AI, it's very broad. So depending on the use case, of course, it's slightly different. But let's first talk about like more predictive stuff. So let's say in your game you are trying to figure out like user acquisition, LTV, or by the way, I'll just ask a question first. What here do people, are they game developers or publishers? Like, are they mostly interested in like art, game design, those kind of stuff, or more marketing, user acquisition, monetization? So art people, can they raise their hand? Okay. And more like algorithms, machine learning, like user prediction. Okay, we have both, basically. That's good to know. Okay, so I would say the thing about the data is to get, first step is to get consistent good data. And it's always said, but not always done. So like you basically can get garbage in, garbage out. That's also a saying that people say. So yeah, that's the number one thing to say, I think, there.
So I think to add to what he said, I think one important thing is, first of all, do we really consciously know what kind of data we want to track about our players? Uh, are we looking at the granular data? Because when we talk about data, of course, there are KPIs we talk about, whether it's ARPDAUs or, retention percentages, day one, day 7, day 30, or it is a session length, right? When you talk about a KPI, there is so much behind this KPI which can only be uncovered through granular data, right? When you talk about a session length, overall metric might tell you something, but then you have to peel it to say, which level, how much is the session length, where are the drop-offs happening, which actions are taking more time, so on and so forth. So it's very important to look at data from a lens of, that's the kind of granularity you need within your data to help you uncover real reasons behind the KPIs you see.
Yes. So yeah, I totally agree. So as a first step, I think as detailed as possible. If you are, so again, like we are talking about predictive stuff, understanding the user behavior for different purposes, as detailed as possible. If possible, every single click. Not every single mouse movement, of course. It depends on the game, but every single action that's in the game. If you can have this, then let the machine learning algorithms run. They will find the features that are necessary, and then you can like summarize things, do things like that. But as granular as possible is the first step to be able to have to let machine learning do its job, basically. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. So I think data. I think one important part is that this data architecture or this data intelligence has to be embedded right from the very beginning in order for you to kind of be able to track the right metrics immediately after you go to market. So I think that's one big piece which is necessary today to really build anything, whether it's a ML cases, ML use cases or Gen AI use cases. Data is the foundation there. So going further into a very important aspect, how many of you, while some of you raised hands, but I want to understand how many of you are really battling it out on the UA front, user acquisition marketing? How many of you are dealing with it directly or indirectly, but you know that that's one big area which you need to optimize? Can we have a raise of hands? User acquisition? Okay, a few hands. But we'll start with that because the player journey starts with user acquisition. So Oz has done a lot of work on the user acquisition. So if you can talk about.
Yes. So I think we all know what user acquisition means, especially for mobile games, doing marketing and acquiring users to different channels. And this can be Meta, Facebook, Google, TikTok, and there's many other channels that mobile game publishers use. And so the product we built and the way it's done now compared to some years ago is to use data and machine learning algorithms to do this efficiently. And by efficiently, I mean finding the right users for your game and spending the right amount of money to acquire them. So in US, you might have, like on a network, you might have $10 revenue from each user, so you might be willing to pay $8. But in some other country, it might be much less than that. So it's about this. So there's a couple of things. So one is running machine learning algorithms to predict LTV, lifetime value. And you can do this at user level, or you can do this in like channel level. So you can say on average on Facebook in, let's say, Germany, I'm getting 10 euros per person. Or you can actually try to predict each user's revenue as soon as possible. And when I say revenue, it sounds like business, but it also has insights that will be used in other places, like retention is important. When you build the algorithm here, it will choose the features that are key, like which actions, like in the first, let's say, 24 hours or 3 days, which key actions and features the model used to predict the LTV. These are good for predicting LTV and as a result, managing the campaigns, yes. But it's also useful to have this insight for your game designer because these will tell you the critical points in the game. Maybe you will have to adjust it later. So I kind of diverged, but it's good to show that actually everything is connected and your data platform that you build is not for only UA. It's also for game design. It's also for improving retention. It's all, once you have the data, it's for all purpose.
Yeah, just to add on to what Oz said, we all have the optimization of user acquisition spends as one of the key goals of our growth. When we look at the equation between customer acquisition cost and the LTV, one important element, what he talked about, is predicting the LTV. Today, when we pass on the information to our marketing partners or networks, we are passing some events which has very limited information or intelligence embedded. It's very important today to build a model which can tell you, and you can have as little timestamp as possible, and the model is able to predict the LTV, lifetime value of a player who is coming onto your game within the first few hours or one day. And if that becomes a critical intelligence which is passed on to the marketing affiliates, they would be able to optimize and give you a better ROAS, give you a better quality of player. And that's a very important way of really optimizing UA. Second part is also today we are using a lot of creatives. And there is a lot of creative analytics. I mean, he started with that saying, how do you really analyze campaigns? When you talk about campaigns, it's about your creative, your geography, your channel, so on and so forth. So I think that again is an intelligence, and today there are multiple solutions which do ML-based creative analytics, which can tell you element level inputs to say, hey, this creative, this color didn't work, this element didn't work, and they will benchmark it with what is happening in the market and tell you precisely what you need to do for the next creative. And there are solutions which kind of combine it with Gen AI solution to actually help you build those creatives, which could be videos or statics or playable videos. So that's the kind of world which we are going to look at, where user acquisition, which perhaps has been more reactive. We look at the channels and we look at data and then try to see how we should spend. It becomes intelligent right at the time when the user comes in, and you're able to identify early on your whales, your the kind of churn you see, drop-offs you see. So all that would get in. So yeah, so that's on the UA. Any questions on UA, if anybody has, before we move to the next topic? Okay. So next is the content.
Yes. So I think the panel before us was about the content, like image generation and asset generation, all this stuff, from what I understand. So we also plan to talk about it, but maybe if it's the same people, we can do it a bit faster. So I think we all know, like 2D image generation is working quite well now. And I was here, like I was listening to the previous panel, and it's correct that there are many different approaches, tools that you can use. If you have the resources and if you have someone that's interested to do this, then using Confi to build your custom models is a really good idea. I agree with that as well. And I mean, tools are developing for all kinds of art assets, 2D, multiple companies, 3D, motion capture, videos, all of them. And lately, I mean, I guess it's still recent, last couple of months, there was whole game generation, like a whole Doom game could be replicated with generative AI without a Unity engine. So that happened. So there's rapid development there. The one thing that I can tell is the person that does this the best, but from what I see, at Leonardo we work with many gaming companies, is that it's not the programmer that does this, but you need to have the artist involved, because the artist knows best what the image, like what his art style should look like. Like they have the best vision for this. And it's almost like the artist and the one AI person. And the AI person doesn't even need to be like at the level of like building a stable division from scratch. They just need to know how to use it. They need to follow, be enthusiastic about it, and try, basically. There's a lot of try. Today, none of the tools are working perfectly. You have to try and experiment. So someone that's willing to experiment with a good artist working together gives the best result. That's my opinion. And
yeah, I think that's a very important point. I'm sure the last panel already dwelled on it. So, but not just here, but across use cases, one thing you would realize, especially on the Gen AI side, that many of the use cases, whenever you look at a solution, it would not really cater to 100% of your needs. It might just be at a 30, 40% to start with. And that's where it's very important to realize that that's how technology evolves. You will not get a ready to use solution, but the good news here is the speed at which Gen AI is evolving is amazing, is crazy. It is unprecedented, and hence the solutions are getting better very rapidly. So what typically takes years to kind of mature and give you that 80, 90% exponential impact, that time span would get crunched up. We should expect in 1 year time a lot of change there, and many of these use cases becoming a reality.
yes. And in my experience for games that are like, so there's the games that are built completely with AI, like some kind of narrative games where, LLMs make the story and diffusion models make the images. It's like a whole game. From the first day they have the plan to use AI. Those are, I think, a bit different. I mean, that's one category. AI works really well because it's designed for using AI. But if you have an existing game and you just want more content, more assets, more levels, more things, then it's you have to. It has to be consistent with all previous work. So it's a bit more tricky, I would say. And the other thing to say is you may have to use multiple tools. It doesn't have to be a single tool that does everything for you. You might have, like, you should look at your workflow. Start with the part that's most repetitive, that you don't want to do. Like, you don't have to do the whole thing with AI. Start with the part that you don't want to do. If, let's say, you want to generate, I don't know, like 5,000 levels of cakes, like, then nobody wants to do that. So you can build a pipeline that does this, or use an existing tool to do this. So I think those are.
Yeah, I mean, content of course goes across, like especially for games which are based on IP, story arc, or narrative based. There, of course, there is a lot of contribution which AI tools today can make in terms of helping you carve out those arcs. But talking further about, let's say, live ops, which is where the whole, I think, player retention engagement gets more intense, and that is where a lot of intervention in terms of what should we do, what should we offer, how should we look at the economy, when should we give, when should we recommend something. So there are a lot of questions to be answered on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So I mean, would you like to talk about how do you see AI in live ops?
I think live ops also has two sides. One is, again, the algorithms on, like, understanding player behavior. Like, is he going to churn, or like, is he going to spend, the player, will they spend more money? Like, there's the whole machine learning algorithm section. And then the second part is, I think, the content. Because to have successful live ops, you also need events, seasons, things like that. You probably, I don't know, doing New Year, you do a different team, different events. Like, that keeps the players interested. Adding new levels, these are all part of live ops. And again, generative AI can help with once you put it in place, once you figure out your pipeline that works, it can greatly help. Like, this level generation, or the art content that you need is actually a really big part of game development, I think. I mean, everybody knows here. So
yeah, and I think just to add on, whether it's a pricing decision, it's a monetization economy decision, or it's a decision of what should I offer to a particular player at what time, in what frequency, whether it's a communication, it's a recommendation of a game type, or it is actually an action to be taken. So I think all these decisions today are, again, things which are done. Of course, there is some thinking, some science going behind it, but what we can really expect AI is a very different level of real-time kind of intelligence to know what the player. So it's actually is like like a symphony where you have different musical instruments playing at the same time and creating the right kind of a song. And I think that's the kind of world which we can create by using AI, where we can really personalize it to the individual and know what is the next action which the game should build given the stage or the state which the player is at. So drive that engagement, drive that communication, drive that monetization in the right way in order to prevent churn and maximize engagement. I think that's the power which AI wields. You want to add on?
No, maybe we ask, does anybody have a specific question about this part? Or
is there any particular thing you want to ask about, especially the live ops, share what you're doing and how you're looking at it?
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody can pass the mic or...
We went over content generation, so we can also talk about images or art, if there's questions left from previous session.
Yeah. So you guys talked about how they recently made a Doom on Unity, and that's fully made with AI. Yeah. So do you think in the future it's possible that the whole code and the development process can be took over by AI rather than a human, like maybe a human supervising it. Is that possible? A full stack development by AI?
Depends on how soon future, I think. If the future is a bit far, why not?
Maybe like in 10, 15 years, or maybe more, maybe less time.
I think so, yeah. It can already write code, so it will get better and better. 10, 15 years is a long time for AI.
We can't predict the future, you're saying.
No, I'm saying 10 years is so long. Yeah, it will probably be
There's a good chance of that happening.
But the thing is, as the tools improve, as AI improves, we will do more complicated stuff. Like now we'll be able to, like as a programmer, you'll be able to imagine something even more complicated. Maybe, like as an example, when you build a data system, like just to go back, so most of the work in these things is actually connecting to the right APIs. When the APIs change, you have to, adjust your code to do this. I would say maybe 5% of the work is actually a data scientist working on a machine learning algorithm. A lot of it is like cleaning the data, getting the data, all this stuff. So if the AI can do this for you, then it doesn't mean you don't have something to do. You'll just work on more complicated stuff, like more advanced, more automated things, or be more creative about it. So I don't believe like they will replace us. I believe it will be just, we'll have time for...
A better tool for us to use in the future.
What?
A better tool for us to use in the future.
Yes, tools will get better and we'll do more interesting, more advanced things.
I just have a question on the live ops piece that we were talking about. So when we analyze, so AI might help when we have large set of data, even now. So I wanted to just understand when we analyze something, there is data, but there's also a level of subjectivity that we use, right? In terms of, in some cases we look at cohort basis, in some cases we look at long-term, short-term, depends on how much is the data, how much type of a player behavior, etc. that we have. So just wanted to understand, are there tools right now which takes care of this subjectivity, or right now are we looking at in future something sooner will get developed, or is it more in terms of just the tool which will give us, say, a high level check and then...
So are there tools? I think yes. The tool that we built was showing all these at different levels. So it would show at like very granular level or at a higher, like it would show, let's say, I don't know, in Hyderabad, in India, in Asia, so different levels. Okay. Also it would show different horizons, like 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, different things. And to be honest, machine learning is not like final answer. Just like when I said you work on art, the artist needs to look at it. If it's like an LTV prediction, the user acquisition person and the product person should look at it. And they shouldn't look at it one number. They should look at all of them, really understand. I think understanding is the key here. Like at the moment, at least, AI can't do that. So you should look at different ways to look at the results.
But do you think it will evolve into such a thing where it can take care of that subjectivity?
Yes, it could, but okay. I think it's still, I think, important for the person responsible to spend this time, at least to a certain level, to have the understanding. Because we don't understand. If every answer was given to us by a number, then we would not learn anything. Like for the learning and understanding, I think it's useful to look at this.
And just to add on, one is there are plethora of tools today. Like at Nazara, what we are doing in terms of use cases, our one effort has been to explore the world and what is available there. So today there are multiple tools available for whatever use case you have in mind, especially whatever basic use cases we are talking about. This might seem advanced, but I must tell you that many of these solutions are now becoming more and more rampant across. So there are available tools. Every tool would have a particular kind of data science which is fueling that tool. And one thing about models is that they take time to train. They give you better results, but they also need continuous monitoring, retraining, and adapt. And that is where the human intervention comes in, because they are essentially as intelligent as the data which they have seen. And whatever new comes in, they need to be again tuned. Isn't that right?
Exactly. So there could be some small, there's always also black swan events. Like you have to have the context. So at the moment, yeah, I totally agree, basically.
Okay.
You have to look, think as a human. Okay. Somebody here.
For example, just to add on to that, add on as an example, like what we are doing, working as a use cases, we have multiple games where, whether it is, a sports simulation game which is ad-driven, or an IAP game, we have IP-driven games, we have gamified early education apps, and there are multiple monetization models, right, from subscription to IAPs to ads to even a real money gaming. And what we realize is now, going forward, we want to make multiple decisions. And we have seen this happen whenever we look back and look at various instances where we have taken some decisions, but which were not able to balance the whole economy or really optimize what you want to give. Sometimes we end up giving more in terms of offers, incentives. Sometimes we don't communicate at the right time and the player has churned, and then you go through the whole rigor of reactivating them, which is again, it is very expensive, and it's always best to prevent churn. So I think all this is a big part which has to be explored. Yeah, sorry.
Pardon my understanding, but so when you say that there are tools and there is human subjectivity that should come into interpreting data, just was wondering how would it be very different from, say, the existing dashboards that any company would already have, because over there also essentially you're going to put all these cuts and then look at data and then take calls. Whereas with Gen AI, I would assume that maybe there is some bit of intelligence that is inherent in the model which can, say, every time learn and reduce the human effort. Like, so the question that I'm asking is, how would it be very different from, say, me as a PM looking at these dashboards and coming up to an answer versus using these models and then coming to an answer?
So we were talking about what you see in the dashboard. Like when you see LTV or retention, so for those using machine learning to make those better. Versus, I don't know your dashboard, but like the dashboards should have kind of what happened, like the existing data, like let's say 7-day retention, 7-day LTV, this kind of stuff, and also the forecast. So they are, because what you see is for the past cohorts, what you predict is for the current cohort that just came. So that's like, one is prediction, one is that, but you can do, I guess you could do like a LLM, work on it.
And the other thing is, I think I have been doing data analytics for the longest time. One thing is that what an ML model does is looks at features which are much beyond what the dashboards would typically cover. You will not be able to process so much of parameters and features, and that's where the machine becomes far more like, I mean, LLMs we are talking about, that they have been trained on billions of dimensions. So I think that level of intelligence cannot be done by a human, irrespective of how much data you see. Second part is, so one is that whole processing part. How do you process so many? Like today, when you construct a data platform for a customer, you might be looking in your dashboard maybe some 20 metrics, 25 metrics, but when you do look at the entire data which the customer journey is creating, player journey is creating, there could be hundreds of them. And then you will do feature engineering, identify the right ones, and then start taking the help of the model to predict on, let's say, day one, what is the LTV, or predict who has the potential of being a whale, or predict who is about to churn. And then the next question is, what should I do now? Because today I'm sending my communication, I'm doing my offers, I'm doing my seasons and events, so on and so forth. How do I then optimize it for that particular player who now my model is telling me is about to churn? So how do I customize it? So while this would be happening at a cohort level, at a segment level, but I think that granular, the personalization which we are talking about today, where the whole world has moved towards personalization at a, hyper is also now old. I don't know what is the new word for it, but that's the kind of personalization which is needed today to really engage the customer who has so many options. So I think that's where the machine learning and all this comes in.
Sorry, a follow-up question. Then how would you see game economy? Like as of now, most of the players are on an economy which is say cohorted. But how would it work if game economy is different for every player? Essentially, then every player is operating at a very different economy. So how would then features that are maybe say social in aspect work?
So that's not an easy thing to answer. So can it be done technically? Yes. There are people working on it. And should it be, do you need to do it for every game? That's a different answer. I mean, maybe you have a game where you want it to be the exact same experience for everyone. Then you can't do that. So it's not I wouldn't call this a technical question. It's more like a philosophical, what do you want to do?
But it can be done technically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can be done, but should it be done? How would it
That's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to you, right? He's rightly said that, because if you want to create that customization, and which is where we are moving towards in many games now, there is a personalization which is happening at multiple levels. If that's the path, then of course it's needed.
Hi, I have a question. So we talked about identifying, like, for every player, personalizing at what stage, what frequency, what time we need to communicate to, or do certain actions to retain them, right? And we have different models for all of these. Have worked on any framework which have automated the life cycle, different steps at which we need to do this, using these different models, like talking to each other, like at this point when somebody does this prediction, and then that goes into multiple different pathways, and like basically creating a complete framework out of all these different models we have. Is that something which you guys have worked upon before, or does it even exist, like such tools exist?
Yes, I think they exist. So in live ops platforms, you can do such things. I worked more on the prediction algorithms and recommendation algorithms. And
so does multiple of these algorithms talk to each other? Because we are predicting for different things on each of these models. So how does it all work if we have to connect all of these together to curate like a life cycle management for a player? How does that work?
well, it can work. It works.
Yeah, it works. Like, can you give me an
Well-
example
well-
of like how, like example of what has been done, just to get understanding?
Like a simple example is like super simple. If you have a like in-app purchase and advertising game, and if you can detect that somebody is not doing in-app purchases, they will not buy anything. If you can detect that, then you start showing them more ads.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, yes. Suppose that, like, after
Yes.
you get to that point, now to decide, like, what frequency of
Yes.
ads, like, when to do that,
Yes.
and then say if, and personalize it to based on that player's behavior.
Exactly.
So there'll be multiple models to it, right?
Yes.
At different points.
Yeah,
like,
different ones.
how
Yes.
do we optimize to at what point, at what frequency? How do we get these models to talk to each other, or any framework to talk to each other, so that get personalized?
They don't need to talk to each other.
No, but my understanding is basically we are defining what is the output, what we are training all these models on, right? Is there a way they intelligently identify what that should be and then connect all of that? Is that something doable?
Well, I guess I'm not 100% sure if I understood, but
So my question is,
the KPI is, I mean, you have to look at it like from far away. What's the purpose?
yeah, my question is, right now,
Yeah.
we train the model
Yes,
and we tell the like, we identify what is output variable.
yes. What to optimize for the
What
KPI?
to optimize.
Yeah.
Is there any system where it identifies what should be the output variable and then optimize?
Yeah, I think that can be done, but I'm not sure if it's such a like
Yeah,
good idea. Yeah.
yeah. So I think like whenever you're building models, as you get deeper into it, you'll realize what do you really want as an output of it. What is the KPI you want? And like Oz already said, there could be different models doing different things, and they're all optimized to deliver that particular, output. Whatever it could be a KPI, it could be a recommender, it could be a score, whatever you want. So what you're asking is there a mega model, a mega structure where everything is connected? So obviously, when you start using multiple models, they would all start delivering certain results and optimization. And that's where you see solutions on the live ops. Some of these players have done that kind of a thing where they would not just tell you LTV, but they will also tell you what to give. That's what you're asking. You're saying, can I predict and can I take an action and then can I do this? So multiple stream, like the continuous stream of player life cycle management, there are things. So all these models would get optimized over a period of time with the data and then they will start giving you results. Is there a mega model which does all this? I don't know. I mean, I have not thought about it.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure if it's necessary to do this. Like let's say a different example. Let's say you are doing a user acquisition campaign, and like whatever you put as a ROAS target, it hits it. You get that exact ROAS. But then you could put something saying maximize the revenue of the game, let's say. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's necessary. Like, I think like back to my point earlier, I think you should pay attention because if you just let it go, then maybe you'll get like no players left because it's going to go to an extreme case. Yeah, you should. That insight is, I think, also very helpful for the development team. Like you should look at it and decide like how you want it to go. That's my opinion. Like I think, and the people that used our tools, we saw that that was a good approach.
Any other questions?
We could finish on time?
Yeah, we could finish on time instead of carrying on. Huh? Right. So if there is no particular question,
you can always find us afterwards.
Yeah, you can find us
add
around.
us on LinkedIn or come talk to us.
Yeah. And you want to make any closing remarks?
Closing remarks?
Yeah.
So AI can be used in many different use cases. And like I said, the maturity is not the same for every use case. The tools are not the same for each use case. But I would say there are now multiple tools. So experiment, look at the tools, play with them, and don't worry that you are going to lose your job. I think you still need the person that knows how to do, like, be it art, UA, monetization, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you still need the person that knows, like, has the expertise to use the right tool. And just experiment.
Yeah, and just to sum it up from my side, I think you need to let your imagination run wild. I think that's what AI does. It's very important to know that you are not limited by earlier constraints. The world has changed and is changing fast. So you don't have to think that you don't have money or resources. I think you need to really let your imagination run wild and then start simultaneously engage and explore the world of AI. And I'm sure it's just a matter of not even 10, 15 years, somebody asked earlier. My view is going to be pretty fast, pretty rapid, and game development is going to be one of the, I would say one of the top 5, 10 spaces which is going to get disrupted. Democratization would happen in a large way because tools will come in. Some are today, maybe some solutions are expensive and big companies like ours can use it. But with time, all this would become affordable, accessible, and this would become something which all of us would be able to use. So I think it's very important to really now think big and think about what use cases you would want your players to experience in your games. I think that's what I would like to end it on. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting.